None. I mean, most of the time if you're going to have sweeteners, you're not choosing foods that you really should be eating more of anyway. In terms of avoiding those foods, you're not really avoiding the sweeteners. I'd probably just avoid the food that really needs to have a sweetener in the first place. If you are though consuming or having 2 litres of Coke and you go and have a Coke no sugar, I'd do that for sure. Don't really avoid them, but maybe just have a think about where those sweeteners are coming into and maybe avoid the food, minimise it.
Make sure that you're getting shadowed ASAP. So make sure that you're working for a dietitian company. 100% should be your first one. If you're a new grad in private practice, do not work for someone that's not a dietitian, because you're not going to get supported, you're not going to get developed, and you're going to suck. And you're going to continue to suck. You're not going to know you suck until you come up against another dietitian. So I would say get shadowed, 100% best tip. But if you're going into private practice, have all your shit ready, know where your resources are. So educational client resources, make sure you've got some of those ready and handy. Have some key sites up, because sometimes you're going to get a bloody redonkulous, complex referral that you don't know what the hell it is. So having a computer ready with Penn Nutrition or some research kind of databases up that you can kind of slyly look at while the client starts to tell you about why they're there is also really, really useful.
What do you think the most common mistake that new grads make when looking for jobs?
They only look for in their capital city, their current area. They don't look outside of that. And too many dietitians think that they're going to be a certain dietitian instead of being very open to all the possibilities. A lot of dietitians graduate going, I'm going to be a hospital dietitian, I'm going to be a private practice dietitian, and it shuts them off from the rest of the opportunities that there could be. Too many end up with no job at all because they're the ones that are only applying for the hospital jobs in the Sydney CBD, just like all the other people that were doing it, and maybe you're just not good enough, and maybe that person liked that other person a little bit more than you, and now you're 6 months without a job. Like, what's worse, getting a job as a dietitian and getting experience, or sitting there on your ass working at the coffee club instead? Like, apply for more jobs.
So the examples were oligosaccharides, disaccharides, but I mean, they're essentially just, again, complex or double bonded types of carbohydrate. It's less about the carbohydrate type and it's more about the food and the food together in a meal. So you might have potato versus a kiwi fruit. They're still considered a carbohydrate, but they have different effects on the way that person feels. And it's more from a perception point of view than it is necessarily about the type of carbohydrate. A lot of the time fruit's just consumed as a meal, as a snack, whereas maybe potato, bread, pasta, rice is consumed as part of a meal, and the meal in its entirety makes us feel more full. In terms of high GI versus low GI carbohydrate, there is a perceived and an actual effect of a slowed responsive release of glucose, which makes us feel less hungry in a shorter space of time. But outside of that, honestly, it's just individuals have different effects of foods and how it makes them feel, and there's not a lot of chemistry around that really dictates it, but it depends on how that food is consumed and in what meal.
What were the most common mistakes you found dietitians made in 2020 when shadowing them?
Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of shadowing in 2020 because of COVID keeping us out. But biggest mistakes that are commonly done in shadowing with dietitians is that they aren't as specific as they could be with recommendations, ensuring that they're really delivering that in an effective way and really targeting what they need to target to achieve that client's goal. So that might be through a consult, you're talking about different things and providing recommendations, but when you're getting up to leave, it's making sure that they have some clear direction around what they need to do until the next time you see them. Yeah, you might have talked about it through it and you hope that they knew it, but saying it and writing it down and giving it to the client as a leave behind, as something that they can hold on to and reflect on, is a really important part of getting continual results with your clients. So that's a common thing that we see.
I guess I'm worried that I'll give a different advance and they will just latch onto it like no tomorrow, and then potentially down the track I want to change it.
Yep, so then go, look, at the moment, what would be best is this.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, you said last time, but this is good. It's like, yeah, but that was when we were at 96 kilos. Now we're at 90 kilos and you want to get to 85.
Yeah.
We need to decrease this a little bit. So instead of half a cup, I want you to have a third of a cup.
Yeah.
What's the first question you'd ask a client who is looking to lose weight but has no specific goal weight? Yeah, well, that's easy. I would just ask them, what is their goal? It may not necessarily be a specific goal weight, even if they're trying to lose weight. And then based on that goal, you might be able to then help them create some sort of sub goal or individual goals which are going to get them towards that weight loss. But I'd probably get them at some point to have a conversation around how much, how long, just because without those figures, it's just weight loss, which is fine. But definitely try and define that.
So my experience on placement, my supervisor didn't particularly, she remembered me, but it was because I said, I don't want good feedback. I just want you to tell me what I did wrong. And like every time we'd sit down and have feedback, I was just like, I don't care about the good stuff. Just tell me what I need to do to get better. And then I'll just do that all the time. And then like 5 years on, one of our ex-staff went and we helped them get a job and they went and worked for them. And she actually remembered me saying that to her because it's not a common thing. But like, depends on who you are and how you take feedback. Peter said I'm the king of feedback because I'll take all of it and then I'll action it straight away. And I want it because I want to be better. So I think to them removing ego, it's more like, all right, my whole placement experience is not about me being a good dietitian. My whole placement experience is about me learning. So it's just take everything you can in, write down the ones, action the ones you feel that you can, and then go forward.
My thoughts around it, like my personal opinion. I don't have any personal opinion about anything because I'm not there to judge or make personal assessments. It's more around how it's going to be used. So if I have a client that really doesn't have an appetite, complains about not having an appetite but is overweight, and someone gives them that, I'm like, well, it's likely not going to be as effective, so I probably wouldn't support it or encourage it. Or if I've got someone that really has terrible sleep, doesn't sleep well, that's kind of contraindicated, or if they've got really high blood pressure, I'd probably maybe go back and have a chat to the GP about the appropriate use of that. But I have used it in the past, but not through my directive. It would be in conversation with the GP, and it would only really generally result in anywhere from like 5 to 10 kilos of weight loss. So it might be used as a bit of a boost, but I would then make sure that they have my support for the remainder of that.